Now more than ever, we are overworked and underpaid, especially in 2026 with rising grocery prices, ballooning gas costs, and even our own transportation to get to the job that we work at to make money that we need to live is getting more overpriced than ever. I already talked about cars in my Overpriced Car Epidemic, which you can check out after this video, but for now, let's focus on the overworked and underpaid epidemic.
Why can't we get by in this country anymore just working one job?
Stop overworking and getting underpaid. Because best believe if something was to happen to you, you would be replaced the next business.
Chapter 1. The Overworked. Also, it's not like Gen Z and Millennials aren't trying. Millennials are the most educated generation in human history. Yeah, I know us Gen Z screwed up the Flynn effect with the whole bringing down the IQ because of all the doom scrolling. But regardless, humankind as a whole is still more educated than ever, especially the current young adult workforce. Yet despite the massive abundance in college degrees, over 1.9 million graduates, yes, graduates, not dropouts, are unemployed.
Gen Z is facing the worst entry-level job market in nearly 40 years, with 2/3 of all entry-level roles filled by those with over 7 years of work experience. And with most employers not even considering hiring recent grads, AI is projected to eliminate 50% of all entry-level roles just within the next 4 years.
And this time, it isn't just the gender studies degrees, even STEM is getting smacked in the face with a huge dose of corporate AI slop as more and more interviews are complete waste of time. More job listings are just completely fake, the entire system is run by what feels like ghosts, and applicants are sent on this wild goose chase of submitting hundreds to even thousands of resumes just to hear nothing back. Unemployment is now a fate that awaits almost 6% of new college graduates each year. Last year, I already made a video talking about college underemployment in my blue collar video, but guess what? Gotten worse since then. This isn't to say that we should all just stop going to university, but I highly suggest that people who do want to go down that route still, you should take foundation courses in a community college for the first 2 years, because that's just going to save you a ton of cash and a ton of student loan debt. It's crazy that it's that low of a percent to get a job that actually related to your degree. Like generally, if World War III starts, more people end up being employed because at least being drafted still means they got a job. So here most of us are, working odd jobs just to make ends meet and throwing the tiniest bucket filled with droplets of water at the massive $1.6 trillion of student loan debt. Hell, some of us are even working 2 jobs just to make ends meet. I know some people who work both the closing and opening shifts at places, barely getting by on 4 to 6 hours of sleep, cracked out of their minds on caffeine, and completely empty and devoid of hopes and dreams. A meager 10 to 20% of Gen Z feel hopeful about their finances, with 70% of us having a negative view of the current economy, and 39% of us would describe our financial situation as terrible, nearly double the 21% statistic of other generations. It's no wonder some people in Gen Z just doom spend. They don't think there's anything waiting for them in the future, so they just enjoy what they have now, even if it's racking up tons and tons more debt. I don't condone this, by the way, and I'm gonna say this to prevent this video from being all doom and gloom, because something people need to realize is, at the end of the day, an economy can't permanently go down. There's a higher chance of humankind literally going extinct than a permanent downturn. The reality is the market has to come back, or heck, the 4 recessions that Gen X and older millennials lived through, right? I know they're looking at us and they're going, that's cute, they're going through their first recession, but the reality is they're still kicking and humankind as a whole is still kicking. Therefore, I don't condone taking hundreds of thousands of credit card, auto loan debt, and other various goofball purchases. Having said that, looking at Gen X and older millennials, while I say that they're kicking, it's only sort of. I mean, it looks like they're kind of trying their best, and most of them have honestly just tuned it out at this point, because I have seen the posts of you guys closing your eyes on the highway and letting a semi-truck end it all, and I just want to ask, you guys okay? Like, we chill here? You good? Are we all just suffering right now in this economy? Is everyone in this boat right now except for boomers? Like, we're cooked. Bosses, politicians, and our elders would rather squeeze every last penny out of us on their way out, even turning multiple segments of our economy into dedicated funnels for our money going straight to them, be it their healthcare, their retirement, their fourth vacation home in Fiji, and their investments, which, by the way, f the stock market. I don't care if it hasn't said we're officially in a recession yet. It's the same 7 asshole AI companies trading the same lump of cash to each other on each other's balance sheets.
The entire market is being carried by a few firms speculating about the future of AI. And every day, it just looks like this whole game is being held together by tech CEOs passing around the same pile of money to make their numbers look good.
To make it look like the economy is still working when it's long become a zombie being puppeteered by the rich for the rich. Just look at all the other corporations that are even going bankrupt right now. Like, it's getting so bad.
2025 just finished off the year with the highest number of large corporate bankruptcies ever outside of an official recession.
We are all feeling the burn, other than literally a fraction of a fraction, like a top 0.01% of people who are puppeteering it all. It's no wonder some people just want to watch the world burn.
All you had to do was pay us enough to live. There goes your inventory.
Chapter 2, The Underpaid. There's nothing more dangerous than a man who has nothing left to lose. I want to make it very clear, I do not condone acts of vandalism, and especially not arson that can bring potential harm to others, and it's genuinely a miracle no one was hurt. I also think what he did was still de facto in the wrong because he took away several of the jobs of his coworkers who obviously can't show up to work anymore because it's a burned down warehouse. Having said that, while I don't justify his actions, I do feel bro's rage. This was likely someone who used to be reasonable, but has hit their last straw. He's not some career criminal or some teenage punk. The reason people related to him was because they could see themselves in his shoes. At the end of the day, he just wanted a living wage. Despite things being more expensive than ever, the minimum wage hasn't moved since 2009, and roughly 20% of jobs still pay less than $15 an hour. And before someone says, but raising the minimum wage will raise inflation, mother trucker, that shit hasn't moved since 2009, and we still got inflation. Also, the same mother truckers who act like we've never raised wages for, oh my god, don't raise wages, it raises inflation. We have literally been raising wages throughout history until Gen Z entered the market and wages stagnated like crazy.
If you only want to work 4 hours, it's going to be harder for you to get a house. We busted our behinds. We had to bust.
The minimum wage in 1980 was $3.10. It is now $7.25. However, rent was $243 on average. Now it is $1,900 for a 7.8 times increase. The median house price was $47,000. It is now $419,000. And the big one, college, was $2,300. It is now $30,000, 13 times more expensive.
They call us lazy and quiet quitters, but the reality is most of Gen Z adults still clock into 8-hour shifts full time. But the difference is how little modern paychecks go in this struggling economy. So despite working the same amount of hours, not less, the same, we have less purchasing power than ever, which takes us back to the overworked in chapter 1, why a lot of people take more than one job. Most of us aren't asking to live on minimum wage like some of them did. We know it's not a permanent career, but for Christ's sake, is it too much to ask for a higher living wage, to have our wages match the rate of inflation? Even when they do raise our wages, by the way, they end up cutting tens of thousands of jobs and replacing them with AI and robots wherever they can.
AI is starting to come for jobs, and this is living proof. We're going to start at number 10, which is Dell, which has 12,000 employees laid off.
Oracle lays off 30,000 employees, then offers $29.7 million pay package to the new CFO.
These hypocrites at the top completely forgot how easy they had their life when they were young and in their 20s, and were not entitled for asking for the same American dream that they had growing up. In fact, we just want a fraction of it. I don't even need as big of a house or as nice of a car as them. I don't even need a car, in fact. Just anything in the American dream. Bro, not having crippling medical debt right now is an American dream for me. Like, things like this will keep happening if people feel disgruntled, underpaid, and hopeless for the future. I said this in my bad driver epidemic, but I'll say it here again. Why are the rich and the old taking away the futures of the young and healthy? A healthy economy functions on a strong youth in the workforce, not the other way around, because young people are literally required to work because they're the ones who can work, and old people, they need us for their retirement, which it blows my mind why they treat us so poorly then. These punks are just private equity cum dumpsters for billionaires to jerk off and invest into. They're playing with people's lives, and they even have the audacity to move into the content creator space on YouTube. Nothing is safe from billionaires. Every hustle is dead. They want to maximize every single penny of profit in every industry, even creative industries. You know who's not owned by private equity? My channel. I spent 5 years battling cancer and spending over $250,000 before finally entering remission. I've never once asked my audience for a single penny. I don't blame Reddit in 2024 for criticizing my voice for being monotone and my videos for being lazy, since I wasn't open about my illness then. However, I'm not going to be mad at these people because I wasn't open about my illness until very recently, so do not harass them. In fact, now that I've gotten healthier, I still went out of my way to listen to their criticisms. Make better thumbnails? You bet. Make longer videos? Now I have the energy so I can. Make better edited videos? Yup, absolutely. Don't sound completely monotone? I'm trying. But the scars still remain, and at the end of the day, part of it is genetics and DNA about how we sound, right? I'm never going to reach Haggerty or Car Trek levels of quality. I want to be completely transparent, and I've accepted that. I still edit all of my videos myself. I'm the sole owner of this channel. I do not have editors or team, but I should probably hire a CPA like this guy mentioned, and I absolutely appreciate you guys sitting through the occasional sponsors I have. I'm still an honest-to-God YouTuber, not a corporate tuber, and especially not a private equity shill. To any new viewers, while you're here, why not subscribe as we all struggle through this economy together? I slowly built my way out of $250 of medical debt, brick by boring brick. So whatever awaits us ahead, just know I'm in the trenches down here with you. And while we're down here, the least I can offer is some epidemic slop to make your time at work, school, or lunch a bit less boring. Anyways, thanks so much again for supporting this channel. On to chapter 3.
I just had an order pop up that said, oh, this order is 45 items for $7.
You guys gotta understand, like, door dashing is just a dead-end street. I mean, it's just not what it used to be, like, at all.
The hustle is dead. A lot of people are actually losing money in the side hustles they currently work in. For example, like wasting more gas idling their car as they get less and less Uber Eats orders coming in.
I've been sitting in my car for 2.5 hours and haven't done anything, haven't made any money, so there you go. I have 5 stars. I'm a diamond cart, which is the highest level you can get. I get priority access to orders.
Side hustle culture and the gig economy is dying at a rapid rate, and this makes sense when you consider doing DoorDash or Uber Eats for extra cash on the side isn't going to work when most people don't have any more cash to order food or take regular Ubers to concerts or airports from traveling, because no one has money to do any of those things, so then people can't make money from doing those things either.
This would mean that even if there were no changes in how this revenue was divided up, there is simply less money per driver even without considering inflation. But by understanding these numbers, you can see how this can very quickly become a dangerous feedback loop, especially if these customers can no longer justify spending twice as much on their food to have it hand-delivered across town.
Even sadder is inflation. Despite being back on track to its normal 3%-ish yearly rates, that just plainly doesn't feel true. Many goods have de facto gone up 10% in front of our eyes within a few months. Take a look at the PS5, for example. Last year, it got a $100 price increase from tariffs, only to get another $150 price increase from RAM prices. Chips, for example, I swear to God these were like $3.99 for a huge family-sized bag just a couple years ago. Then I blink and suddenly a single bag of chips costs more than the US minimum wage.
Well, just regular Doritos, $9 a bag.
$7.29 for one bag of Ruffles. Are you kidding? And before you say, oh, that was the party size, the regular size is $6.
Let that sink in. An hour of work buys you a snack in this economy, not even a meal, and you're gonna have me believe that inflation is on track to being 3% yearly? Kiss my ass. What's crazy is barely 10 years ago in 2016, you could still buy several burgers for $1 each. I'm not hallucinating this. I remember literally using a $5 bill in high school back then to get our food, blasting chain smokers closer as me and the boys are packed into a tiny car after club. That $5 bought all 5 of us a single burger each. I do not want to hear this being called gradual inflation when it basically was a night and day shift. Most of us still feel like we just woke up one day and everything just costed 4 times more than it used to.
In January of 2020, I paid $70.20 for 30 items. I added all of them into the cart again and repurchased them today. Today, those 30 items were $165.42. That is a $95.22 price increase in 4 years' time. That's a 135.6% inflation percentage.
But I'll save my rants on various consumer goods for a future video called The Overpriced Everything Epidemic. And if you'd like to see that, then make sure to like this video and subscribe for more epidemic slop so you don't lose track of me. Let's move on to the final chapter.
Some of you may die, but it's a sacrifice I am willing to make.
Even if the economy collapses or we finally get a market correction, I'm still fearful of what the government is going to do because they might just side with investors and give them a bailout. Remember guys, if we start a business and fail, it's just called capitalism. Take your L. But when investors throw money in a company and it fails, oh, they socialize the losses. We have to all share the L for that one. As these comments adequately describe the sentiment, our actions have consequences, so it's our responsibility to dig ourselves out of our own financial holes. But for investors, oh, whoopsie doopsies, please bail me out, Big Daddy Government. And this comment right below, privatized gains, socialized losses. Yep, sums up exactly what I wanted to say. Socialism is only acceptable when investors lose, guys. As a result, the sentiment across most American Gen Z and young millennials is simply to let it rot. A trend that originally started in Asia from their culture of overworking their youth and complaining why none of them are making babies when literally none of them have time to raise a child, much less afford one. Like, these boomers have the audacity to ask us for babies to put into this dog shit system when most of us can barely survive in this dog shit system. Yeah, let's repeat the cycle. We grew up watching our stressed and broke Gen X parents raise us to be stressed and broke, then we raise our kids to be stressed and broke.
So it turns out that my teenage son and his gang of friends thinks that the future is going to be bad no matter what they do. So he thought that you might as well give up trying. Initially, I felt kind of annoyed. My son felt that by the time that he and his friends became men, it would be like joining a game of Monopoly at the end stages, where every single lot has already been bought up.
This also creates a negative cycle where companies raise prices on childcare related things to maintain their profits, which drives costs higher, which further disincentivizes the normal person from having children. In the United States, we're already seeing something similar. Recent estimates put the total cost of raising a child at around $300,000 to nearly $400,000 from birth to age 18, not including college.
That doesn't make Gen Z selfish for not wanting kids. It'd be selfish to have kids just for the sake of having them to meet a boomer government quota that they want so they can pay for their retirement, only to struggle to put food on the table for our kids that are living people. By the way, I'm not against having kids. I do not want to end this video on a hopeless doom poster note. The point I'm making though is I don't want people to feel guilty for not rushing through life. Times have changed and the metric of how we measure our success has changed. The same boomers who tell us to stop comparing ourselves to each other in social media won't stop comparing our life to their privileged upbringing during their best economic boom of human history.
I think one of the biggest flaws that the boomer generation has is they have a real hard time believing a reality that exists outside their own lived experience. It's almost always, you're wrong because when I graduated college, when I got married, when my husband lost his job, when we raised kids, it's almost like they can't prescribe a solution outside their lived experience.
And this kind of makes sense. Think of pre-industrial humankind. If someone lived to be 60 back then, they would de facto be wiser than anyone else in town through lived experiences, since technology didn't really change that fast over the course of many centuries during that time, so age always meant wisdom. However, fast forward to just the past 2 centuries and you realize lived experiences no longer accurately constitute wisdom, for the same reason that horse breeders became outdated by cars and motorbikes. Magnify that level of technological power creep by a factor of 10, and that's the best comparison I can give for the internet being brought onto the world. This is why I still struggle to explain to boomers how expensive cars are. Until they literally try to buy it themselves, they won't believe it. For example, I tried to help one of my friend's parents buy a truck a few months back, and he was in disbelief that the luxury truck he wanted costed $88,000. He thought it would be like 35 to 40 grand at most in his head. After being completely humiliated by a salesman saying, "We don't negotiate under MSRP anymore. In fact, that particular model has a market adjustment of $10,000. Oh, you have an 800 credit score? Yeah, that gets 4.99% APR. Sorry, we don't do 0% interest or even 1.99%. And this finally made him realize that the last time he bought a truck in 2015 was a totally different world than 2026. Having said that, this is why you shouldn't try to live to their outdated worldviews that they based only on their lived experiences. You don't need to be married at 22, house at 25, and 2 kids by 27 like boomers were. My older millennial brother and sister just now had kids with their spouses in their mid to late 30s, and I had to clarify spouses in case someone from Alabama misconstrued that statement. But the point I'm making is, like, for the rest of us Gen Zers who are behind millennials while we're still in our 20s, look, we'll get there when we get there, alright? We'll get there when we want to get there too. And even if you don't want to get there, I'm not going to hate you as a person. There's so much more to life than what our DNA tells us. Humans are special because we have reasoning and critical thinking. But if you want a kid, you can have a kid. But don't feel like you need to compare yourselves to what boomers did and all their hounding about having it right out the gate when you're like 22 to 25, alright? Enjoy life at your own pace, and I hope we all weather this storm. Truth is, I don't want the system to rot. I just want it to heal. Thanks for watching, and if you're new here, then make sure to check out my other epidemic slop videos. Like this video if you enjoyed it, and share it to your favorite group of doom pillars. I'll see y'all next time. Bladed Angel out.